So I'm sorry if you're only going to get half my attention for this show, James.
Oh no, why? What's going on?
I just installed Mini Motorways on my Mac.
On your Mac, right. Nice. Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I guess we can call this show over.
It's actually playing really well.
Is it? I was curious about how these games are going to be playing on the Mac, so yeah, you're getting good frame rate?
Yeah, I had pretty high hopes for Mini Motorways because Mini Metro has been a Mac game for, I don't know, 4 years or however long it's been out. So
not on Catalyst, though.
No, but I knew they were capable of making a good Mac game. So
that means also that you've renewed your Apple Arcade subscription because the 1 month trial is now over.
Yeah, I decided to keep it around. I've enjoyed it enough, and not just me, but my family, so it was an easy decision.
I've let mine lapse, despite
really
enjoying it. There's just too much free stuff to do, you know?
Yeah.
I think I played probably 99% Mini Motorways, 1% Ocean Horn 2. Yasmin played 100% Mini Motorways. I don't think she even installed another game. But yeah, probably, we might subscribe sometime, like if we're catching a plane or, you know, we have a particular reason to play a game, but just in general, neither of us are really gamers, even casually.
Right.
So it wasn't worth the money, unfortunately. It was very almost worth the money, but just not quite.
Well, I'm hoping this will really pay for itself isn't the right word, but for Christmas this year, we're getting all the kids their own iPod Touch, and I think they'll be able to really enjoy the games then.
Yeah, that's really making the money out of it, making the most out of the monthly subscription when you've got numerous people on it. Maybe I'll have to wait for my kids to be older, and I mean, kids are always gamers, right? Is there such thing as a non-gamer kid?
I mean, you think I got my two oldest the Nintendo 2DSs for Christmas last year, and they've played them a few times, but generally only if they don't have anything else to do. So they may not be fans of those games, at least. Although they've grown up with iPads and playing games on my phone, and they're really used to that, and so the idea of like physical controls is weird to them, which is a funny twist.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're hoping the iPods will be better fits for them.
Yeah, probably. How does buying games work with the 2DS? Do you have cartridges still? Do they hook up to the internet? I know nothing about portable gaming.
I believe there is an option to buy them online, like buy the games through some eShop. We made the mistake of going the cartridge route, and they lost like half their games immediately.
Are they like SD size cartridges?
Yeah, that's about right.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's another reason that we're going with something a little more digital.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, all right. Well, I've been waiting a few days to hear this story about your phone, so I'm ready to hear it.
It's hardly a story, really, but I'll tell you anyway.
Okay.
So I was at the pool, and normally I don't even take electronics really to the pool, but I'd had to catch a bus this time. So I had a bag with a camera in it, my phone, and my Apple Watch in there. And I was just casually putting the bag down on the bench, and somehow it must have built up a bit too much of like a... I don't know, it was like too much heavy stuff at the bottom of the bag, and it was like it had the pendulum effect, and even though I wasn't rushing or doing anything quickly, it hit the bench, and it made just an awful sound. Yeah. But I also didn't worry too much at the time, probably because I was just getting into the pool and I had other things on my mind. But yeah, it wasn't until after the swimming lesson. It was a swimming lesson for Johannes. I pulled out my phone and the screen is just destroyed, basically. It has an impact point on the side of the phone. It's terribly unlucky. If it had hit at any other angle, it would have just been like a flat on the screen or a flat on the side of the phone and probably wouldn't have done any damage. But right on the corner. And you can see the impact point, and then it's spidered out, cracks from there, and has only gotten worse over time as well. So the screen is slowly degrading, and I don't expect to be usable for too much longer.
Right.
This is despite having like a pretty hefty screen protector on the front as well. So that cracked, and then I had a slim hope that it was just the screen protector that had cracked, but no, alas.
Sounds like you need some kind of heavy-duty waterproof case on your phones from now on.
Yeah, man, I'd done so well to keep it out of the reach of the little one so that he wasn't dropping it any more cups of tea. Mm-hmm. I was so unlucky. I mean, that first SE I had, I don't know how long it lasted, but it wasn't long. Couldn't have been more than a few months. And then this one's been mere weeks. I'm not even sure I've had it a month.
Man.
And the slightly extra annoying thing is that I have been looking into these, like, add a Qi charger to your phone that doesn't have wireless charging with those, like, low-profile lightning port connectors, and then the coil on the back, which is, a fraction of a millimeter thick. And, of course, that would mean getting a case for the phone to protect that. So I'd been very close to buying one of those Qi add-ons and a case for this phone. But of course now it's too late. It's all over.
Yeah, those add-ons actually work pretty well. I use them for my Apple TV remotes.
Ah, okay.
Man. Well, at least you kind of can use your Apple Watch as a main display for your phone, so you don't have to pull the phone out too much to, like, send a text or something.
Right, yep. I'll be doing that a lot. Yeah, the silver lining of this is that of all the things in that bag, I had a camera, the Apple Watch, and the phone. The most repairable and the least valuable item was broken of all three.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do now? Are you just going to try to live with it for a while?
Yeah, I'll live with it for a little while.
Until it starts cutting your fingers up.
Right.
Just need to put a big piece of packing tape over the whole screen to hold it together.
Yeah, could do. I was contemplating getting another screen protector.
That'd work.
Yeah, but I don't really want to be part of the unwashed masses of people who carry a smashed screen as their daily.
I mean, how much would it be to just get a replacement screen?
From Apple, or just, like your mall kiosk does them for less than 100 Australian, so what's that, like $60-70? But anytime I've seen those like third-party screens on people's phones, they often don't look as good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I've been able to tell in the past.
I know iFixit sells a lot of replacement parts. I don't know if that's a route you'd want to go, is trying to fix your phone yourself, but...
Yeah, I could do. I can't really remember how repairable like this iPhone 5S SE model is. I'm sure I've taken one apart before, and it was easier than the 4, which was a nightmare to get to the screen. But
So a new screen from iFixit for an SE is $50 US. So probably like 70 Australian or something like that.
Yeah, see, in that case, I may as well take it to one of those little kiosks that seem to always be run by
someone else
Chinese people.
Yeah.
To just do it for me in that case.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you can get like an SE for about 125 Australian, so maybe I should also just do that.
Yeah. You're going to single-handedly dry up the iPhone SE supply in Australia, James.
At this rate, you might be right.
So we couldn't have waited just for the SE2 to come out. You had to...
So I'm not sure the SE2 is going to be for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not going to have the iPhone 5 styling, which I like a lot because it also matches my iPad. And it's probably not going to have the same screen size.
Yeah. Yeah, everything seems like it's going to be closer to the iPhone 8. So.
Yep. Anyway, that's my story. Did you like it? Was it worth the wait?
It was. It makes me sad for you. I don't know how you go through life smashing so many devices.
It's just been this year, really.
Yeah.
In all my years of phone owning, I've never had a worse year than this year.
So, well, I kind of complained about this to you over text already, but I thought it'd be worth maybe going a little bit more detail in on the show and how you ruined noise canceling for me.
Yes, do tell. And I'm sorry.
So, I've had my eyes on the Bose 700 noise canceling headphones for a while, and I finally decided to pull the trigger like a week ago and get a pair and try them out. And the moment I put them on after getting them home and turning on noise cancellation, I felt like this. It was like a very minor, but there was like a pressure, and I couldn't. It was like so minor I couldn't make out if I was actually feeling a pressure in my head, or if you just planted that idea in my head from the last show, and it was something I could definitely live with, but it just so happened that at the exact same time that happened, the Shure headphones that I'd been also looking at for an even longer time went on sale. And I think if either one of those things hadn't happened, like if the Shure headphones didn't go on sale, I probably would have kept the Bose ones because it wasn't that uncomfortable, and I probably could have got used to it. Or if the Shure headphones, or if there was no pressure, I wouldn't have gotten rid of them either. But those two things combined made me decide to return the Bose headphones in favor of ordering the Shure headphones instead.
So have the Shure headphones arrived yet?
No, they're coming tomorrow. I'm really excited to try them out.
So the question is, will you also feel the same mystery pressure on your head?
Well, they're not noise canceling, so
oh, they're not noise canceling. Okay.
No. The 1540s, which is a wired set of headphones that have been on the market for probably 5+ years now, and they're really good for like podcasting, which is what I'm going to be using them for. I'm going to replace the Bowers & Wilkins headphones I use in my booth right now. Most people who would buy them for like music listening are severely disappointed because like these aren't bassy enough or whatever else. They're very like well balanced, neutral sounding headphones. And I've got a friend who's in the video production business who swears by his Shure 1840s, which is just the open back version, which wouldn't work very well for podcasting because then my microphone would pick up everything you're saying.
Right.
But I'm excited to try them out and see if it makes much of a difference in my podcasting setup.
Why do you need such good audio quality just to hear my voice coming through?
I don't. I like to pretend I'm a big fancy podcasting person who needs the best of the best. Honestly, the biggest thing is that the Bowers & Wilkins headphones I'm using now are on-ear headphones, and I really don't like on-ear headphones.
Yeah, they're not great, are they?
But if I was going to replace them, I wanted to replace them with something better. And I usually wouldn't even consider them. They usually retail for $500, which is way too extreme for headphones I'm just going to use for podcasting. But they just happened to go on sale for $150 off for like 12 hours for some reason. So I picked them up and then they immediately went back up in price. So I don't know if it was a glitch on Amazon or what, but I'm glad I got them when I did.
Maybe one day iOS will allow that I can talk to you and record through the proper microphone, so that you can make full use of the quality of your headphones. Because at the moment you're just listening to me through the inline mic,
the AirPod audio.
Oh, it's not as bad as the AirPod mic. Don't worry, it's a cabled inline mic.
Oh, okay. I mean, I do occasionally record like a bit of singing in here. So for those cases especially, it'll be really nice. But 99.9% of my usage is just this podcast.
Back to the noise cancelling headphones. What do you think about this pressure? Was it in your head or was it real? And how long did you keep the headphones on to let the pressure build up?
It was definitely... I feel like it had to have been real. Because I didn't go into it thinking about what you had said. But then I started to feel pressure, and then I'm like, oh yeah, James mentioned this, and then I couldn't ignore it. And what you say about building up is definitely right. It's like the longer I had them on, the more noticeable it was, and the more I wanted to take the headphones off. It felt like, I don't know, almost like there was like a suction around my ears. And I tried turning noise cancellation off, almost feeling like that would let some air in, but it just didn't help. And I had to like pull the headphones off my ears.
That's exactly the sensation that I feel.
Yeah, it's so weird, and I'm sure it was fairly minor. And like I said, if the other headphones hadn't gone on sale, I think it's something I could have gotten used to if I kept them long enough. But I really wanted them because the Bose are so comfortable, and I wanted something I could lay in bed and listen to something in. And I don't feel like the AirPods are very comfortable for more than 30 minutes before they start hurting in my ears. And so I was hoping they could do that, but the pressure also is going to like defeated the purpose of wanting something comfortable if there's this pressure the whole time I'm using them.
I wonder if you put them on without noise cancellation on, what would you feel then?
Maybe. And if, like I said, if they hadn't gone on sale, I probably would have spent more time playing with them, but it just was a perfect storm of me quickly deciding to return those and pick up the Shure headphones instead. I'm
surprised to hear you say that the AirPods are uncomfortable. I could put them in my ears and forget they're there. They're that.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's just things in my ears in general. The AirPods are better than like the rubber tipped in your earbuds. I can't stand those at all. The AirPods I can tolerate for a little while, but then they also get uncomfortable. I'm very picky. I like my headphones to go over my ears, but also not to get too hot when they're over my ears, and I'm just never happy.
I'm curious to see how the next AirPods, if these in-ear AirPods become a reality. Very curious to see how they fit.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to try them on before you buy them, because if they're not like any more intrusive than the current ones, they just have like a seal. They might be comfortable enough for me to try, but I don't want to buy them and then find out I bought $200 headphones that just hurt when I stick them in my ears.
You've always got the 2-week return policy for anything from Apple.
I suppose that's valid. Can you do that like online or through shipping, since I don't live anywhere near a store?
I have done it before. It involved, what was it for? I can't remember, but it involved taking it, just filling out the return info online, and then they gave you a shipping address and then a shipping label rather, and then the address of someone who was partnered with the courier company that they used to accept the package back.
Okay. I suppose I could always just return it to whatever big box store I buy them from, to like Best Buy or something. Just like I did with the Bose headphones, and it just feels a little grosser to return something I've been sticking in my ears versus just a pair of headphones that sat on my head. But
it's not gross for you, though. Whoever gets that refurbished set. Anyway, you can see the first item on the list. Pop quiz.
Yeah, what is that?
How curious has that made you?
I just noticed it when you mentioned it, so I'm happily uncurious.
I put it in there like 3 days ago.
Interest. Did you really?
I think, yeah, for sure, at least 3. Maybe 2 days ago. Maybe it was yesterday.
Okay. All right, what do you got for me?
So I've been listening to this new podcast called Acquired. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
Okay, it's a very good podcast. It goes over mostly tech companies, but also tech-related companies or just any big companies, and how they've been acquired by other companies, which doesn't sound all that interesting, but often there's a lot of like history of the original company. And I think it was the last show they had the founder of Atari on there for an entire show, talking about like the launch, how Atari got its launch, and then what happened to it after that. So highly recommended. Anyway,
okay.
They had an episode on ARM and the acquisition of ARM by SoftBank. But a good 80% of the show was the history of ARM. And I learned a few things. So I thought I would quiz you 2, maybe 3 questions and see if you knew this about the history of ARM.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I don't think I'm going to do very well. I don't know anything about ARM.
Okay.
I'm ready.
This is for you and our listeners. See if you can answer this. What does ARM stand for?
Oh man, I did know that. I don't remember. You have to tell me.
Stands for the Acorn Reduced Instruction Set Machine.
That's right. Yep.
Because originally the company was called Acorn. Acorn in order to be in front of Apple in the address book, according to some reports, because originally the company was competing with Apple, with the Apple II. So they were called Acorn,
Really?
and then, eventually the Acorn Reduced Instruction Set Machine.
All right.
All right, question number 2 is, what saved ARM in the early to mid-90s? Because they weren't doing too well at this time. Basically, complex instruction sets had taken over, the Intel x86, that sort of thing. But what saved them?
Okay. So is this like a specific product that used the ARM
That's right. Yeah.
chips?
Yep.
Okay.
You're very warm.
In the early 90s?
Early to mid.
What was taken off in the early to mid 90s?
Ooh, I wouldn't say taking off.
Okay. So it wasn't a popular product, or it literally didn't fly?
It wasn't a popular product.
Okay. I don't know. Was it something government related then?
No, very related to the podcast that we're doing.
Oh. Did Apple use an ARM chip in like a Newton or something?
Exactly. It was the Apple Newton.
Really?
Yep. So Apple needed a low power chip for the Newton, and they invested millions of dollars into ARM, which more or less saved ARM and brought them back from the edge.
Wow. So so it wasn't the sales of the Newton, it was just the investment.
It wasn't the sales of the Newton. It was 100% the investment. And then one more question, and the answer might kind of be a given.
Okay.
But when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, famously the company was like, what was it, like 60 or 90 days from insolvency or something like that. And they were operating on a very limited cash flow. And it took Jobs and Ive like 3 years or so to actually come out with the iMac, right? What did they do for cash flow in those in between years?
And this is an ARM question?
This is an ARM question.
What did Apple do for cash flow in the years before the iMac?
How did they keep themselves
I know.
afloat before the iMac sales took off?
Didn't they get a big investment from Microsoft to keep themselves afloat?
That could have been part of it. You want me to give it to you?
Man, I don't know. Sure.
They sold off their stakes in ARM, which had gone crazy in the years up to from their investment up until this point. ARM had become incredibly valuable. So to generate cash flow, they were just selling off ARM left, right, and center.
So Apple actually owned at least some portion of ARM.
Yeah, their stake in ARM. Yeah.
In the 90s.
Their 1 or 2 million investment, something very low like that, had become worth like, I don't know, I can't remember, maybe tens or hundreds of millions in a few years.
Wow. And now here we are. Where ARM chips are like powering everything.
Yep. So anyway, I would highly recommend listening to the Acquired podcast and that episode. And there's plenty of other episodes which are kind of related to what we're talking about. I think there's an episode on Pixar, maybe. Actually, that might have been their first one. But yeah, very interesting.
Oh, yeah. The Pixar story is a good one.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Apple Pay overtakes Starbucks as most popular payment method in the US. So you're going to have to explain this to me. How is Starbucks a payment method?
This was news to me too when I read it. Apparently, if you want to do like order your Starbucks through the Starbucks app and then pick it up or something like that, they don't give you an option to pay with anything other than basically like a Starbucks gift card. And so through that, they were considered a mobile payment provider because you're just giving them a bunch of your money to hold.
So you had
not 100%.
like a Starbucks credit card sort of thing, or I don't know what you call it, a debit card rather, since it's not a line of credit, and you just loaded that up and paid with it.
Right, but it was, from my understanding, it was only for Starbucks. So in that case, I'm not sure I understand how that qualifies them as a mobile payment platform, other than the fact that there's just so many people using it that we were comparing Apple against them for some reason.
Yeah, weird comparison. It's not like you're buying groceries with your Starbucks card.
Right. But apparently also there's like a lot of rewards you can get by using that, and I'm sure that encouraged a lot of people to use the card and the app by extension. And it's actually a pretty clever strategy. If you get people to give you a bunch of money up front that then Starbucks can have in the bank accruing interest, basically making extra money off of people for free that way.
Right, and that's what Apple's doing with Apple Pay Cash, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that speaks volumes to how many people go to Starbucks, though, at least in the US, that just the act of using Starbucks gift cards made them the largest mobile payment platform.
As coffee addicted as Australia is, by the sound of it. Although no Starbucks on the West Coast, can you believe? They've got Starbucks on the East Coast, but not a single one over here.
What do you guys have?
As like major coffee chains, probably some you've never heard of, I'd say. We've got Dome, the Coffee Club. I don't know, none are really like super dominant like I can imagine Starbucks to be. I don't even think there are any like major international chains. A McCafe? There you go. That's probably the dominant one.
McCafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have that brand over there? Or do you just call it McDonald's?
I mean, their coffee is called McCafe. There's no like buildings labeled McCafe.
Ah, okay.
Do you have actual McCafe buildings?
Like if a McDonald's has a McCafe inside, which most of them do now, which is like a barista and a coffee machine, then normally the big golden M out the front will have a little sub sign underneath that says McCafe, indicating that there will be a barista making a coffee. And actually, I don't even know if McDonald's without McCafes even exist anymore. Maybe some like really rural ones. But yeah, the vast majority will have a barista and a coffee machine inside, so you're not getting filter coffee.
I wouldn't say that we have a barista. As a matter of fact, I'd say that you definitely just get filter coffee at a McDonald's. But it still says McCafe on everything. So it sounds like you guys have fancier McDonald's than we do.
Well, it sounds like, yeah, they filled a hole where Starbucks was for you guys.
Yeah, we don't have much in the way of chain coffee shops, at least in like the city I live in. We have this local coffee shop that has like 20 different locations in the city and across like the college campus and stuff. So there's not really room for a chain competitor to come in.
Back to Apple Pay. Just last weekend, I went on a small trip, an hour and a half out of the city. And Apple Pay is so widely accepted here that I actually didn't even take any cards with me. I only took a phone, and then got to this country town and found that a lot of places only took cash still. So look at me, city slicker, stuck in a country town, no way to pay for anything, and also no way to withdraw money, because I don't know about over there, but you can't withdraw money using Apple Pay at any ATM.
Right.
Or maybe some of the fancier ones, but not in a country town anyway.
I guess it never occurred to me, but I assume the SE does have tap to pay.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay. I guess just in my head, the 5 and 5S didn't, so I'm just thinking that form factor doesn't have it. But
I thought it came with the 5S.
Sense.
I'm pretty sure the 5S has Apple Pay.
Does it? I thought it was the 6 that NFC was added.
Quick Google.
I'm looking.
I'm like 99% sure it does. Oh, okay.
Nope.
Oh, wait.
Apple Pay is dependent on hardware built in iPhone 6 and 6 Plus.
Oh, really?
Yep.
What's this about? Apple Pay will also work with the newly announced Apple Watch, extending Apple Pay to over 200 million owners of iPhone 5.
Because the Apple Watch will work with iPhone.
Okay. Maybe that's why I got it confused. Unlikely, though. So that's my Apple Pay story. Stuck in a country town with no cash and no way to withdraw money.
So what did you have to do?
I just borrowed money from people.
Huh. I'm pretty jealous of pretty much every other developed country because I still can't go anywhere without physical cards. Like there's a couple fast food restaurants that I could use Apple Pay at, and most vending machines support tap to pay. But if I needed to get gas or to get groceries or anything else, I have to use a physical card.
Yeah, I wonder what the holdup is there. Because, I mean, the rollout was very quick here. It was within a few years that everything just accepted tap payments, and that included Apple Pay. I mean, if anything, there was a holdup with banks enabling it on their cards. That was really the main problem, right. But I'm not sure if there are any holdouts now.
I mean, I know as far as like some of the big box retailers go, the holdup is that they're trying to make their own competing standard.
Right.
Like I know Walmart specifically, they don't enable tap to pay because they want you to use their app and scan a QR code to pay instead.
Just sounds horrible.
Right. As far as like gas stations and stuff go, I don't know. No one's bothered to update gas station in forever. So they still use like, magnetic swipe to pay for all those. You can't even use a chip or anything in there.
Right, and as I've said a few times on this show, the time when I was in North America and I was using the magnetic swipe on my Australian cards, every time I did, eventually figured this out, every time I used the magnetic swipe, the card got locked down for fraudulent things because you're not allowed to use the magnetic swipe anymore on Australian cards. Classic.
So that's so crazy to me.
If anything, the petrol stations, as we call them, are too advanced over here. You can tap with your Apple Pay or your card or whatever, and then it's like, oh, do you have loyalty card X? Scan that. Now do you have loyalty card Y? Scan that. Now do you have loyalty card Z? It's like, geez, just let me pump some petrol, all right?
I definitely have that as well. You swipe the card and it's asked about loyalty cards. It says, do you want to enter your phone number for rewards? It says, do you want a car wash? Do you want this? It's like probably 5 prompts you have to answer before you can actually get the gas.
What's your mother's maiden name? What's your girlfriend's birthday?
Yeah. So, I don't know why we're so slow to adopt those standards, but we're not anywhere close right now.
The next topic was submitted by Dudo 984 TIL. The volume heads-up display is touch-enabled on iOS. And I'm just putting this... I put this topic in there because that shocked me. So...
Really?
Yeah, it did. It's like it didn't shock you. So from iOS 13, instead of having the 16 dots across the middle of the screen, you just get the little slidey-looking thing near the volume button. And so once you've pressed the physical key, that brings up the display. You can then just use your finger to adjust it. And my mind was blown, and it was certainly a TIL for me.
I guess just because it looks so similar to the volume slider in the control center, I just assumed it was something you could touch when I first saw it.
That's a good intuition.
I guess it's still news for a lot of people. But yeah, pretty nice. You need to fine tune. I generally favor on-screen controls. I don't use the buttons very often, so.
Yeah, I would, on my iPad at least, I'd probably pull down Control Center and use the slider rather than the volume keys, because who knows what orientation the iPad's in and where the volume keys would be.
Right.
On my SE, though, I tend to use the buttons because, as everyone knows, on a Touch ID device, pulling up the Control Center isn't quite as nice. I would go from the bottom rather than pulling down the time.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of resistance to the change of Control Center from the bottom to the top gesture, but I've got to say it's a lot better in practice.
Yeah, I prefer it as well. There's definitely too much going on at the bottom between Well, you don't even have the swipe up to go home gesture or anything, but
Yeah.
in the Face ID devices, you definitely have to move it. There's not a choice.
Yeah, it's not a choice. But I just find it more reliable as well. Like, it'll come down 100% of the time. Whereas on Touch ID devices, often it would take a second swipe.
Sometimes you got to do it twice.
Yeah, like the first swipe might like hit a space bar if you're in a text app or something annoying like that.
Or you're just any full screen app. Like sometimes it'll just interpret it as a gesture instead of trying to invoke a system thing.
Right.
I've also had a bug recently with iOS 13 where my volume buttons won't work.
A bug in iOS 13?
I'll have to completely restart the device before the volume buttons will respond anymore.
Huh. I haven't hit that one.
And maybe that's an 11 Pro bug specifically, but it's been happening for at least a month.
Okay. Similarly, quite related to this, comment by Aeroproof. Yep, same with the scroll bar. So once you start scrolling, you get a scroll bar down the side of the screen and you can actually touch and drag that. Although my success rate, my hit rate on moving that scroll bar is like 10%, I would say.
Really?
Yeah, I just can't grab it for whatever reason.
I have the opposite issue where I'll be scrolling down a page and accidentally grab the scroll bar and then it'll shoot me somewhere far away from where I was. And
See, I had that problem in like beta 1 or 2 or 3 and then it just went in the opposite direction and now I couldn't grab it to save my life.
Really? So maybe it's because I have a larger device. I have to reach kind of farther across the screen and I'm touching more of the screen. But
I'm mostly talking about my iPad, even larger.
Oh, okay. Right. Huh. So, I mean, it definitely doesn't happen as much as it did early on for me. It was a consistent issue for me in the early days of the beta, but it still happens to me occasionally. It's still very frustrating.
Okay. Well, I don't know what direction they should take then. Should they make it more grabbable or less grabbable? Because we got people on both sides then.
I would like a system toggle to turn off grabbing the scroll bar because I don't have any need for it.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I ever looked for it on previous versions of iOS. I've always found scrolling quite fast enough.
Or they can take a note from the very, very early days of macOS when they inherited from OpenStep and put the scroll bar on the left side instead.
Oh, whoa. Did they really? I've never come across that.
I think it was just an OpenStep. I think in macOS they moved it, but that was the convention.
Another place I'd like to see them bring scrolling is when you have a Magic Mouse paired to your iPad and assistive touch turned on. So you get the pointer, but you don't get any of the gestures of that you would expect on the top of the mouse.
If you have a mouse with a physical scroll wheel, does it work?
It does, yes.
Interesting. You think they'd support their own devices better?
I'm not even sure that they support the Magic Mouse 2 at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, not at least last time I checked during one of the betas.
Wow. I wonder what reason they have for that other than they just haven't had the time to add those features in.
Yeah. It is nice to use a pointer on iOS on an iPad. Surprisingly nice.
I did see a tweet recently that said the best mouse to use the iPad is Microsoft's Arc mouse.
Wouldn't surprise me. What is the Arc mouse? So. Does it have a whole lot of buttons?
No, it's very minimal. It actually is the shape of an arc, and when you want to stow it and put on the go, it squishes flat into just a thin slab.
Yep.
Yeah. So ultra portable and seems to work well with iOS.
I would have said one with a lot of buttons on it because you can map each button to a different feature.
Huh.
So it makes heavily buttoned mouses quite useful.
I have yet to try it, but sounds like I need to check it out.
Yeah, you should. Next topic is that... what's his name? I can't remember the guy who actually did this test. And I don't want to open the YouTube video in case it kills my recording. Do you remember the guy who did this test?
Phone Buff?
Phone Buff. Thank you. So he did a test. Yeah. Dark mode versus light mode. Battery test. He set up 2 iPhone XS's. And he had a really cool looking robot which would operate both phones doing the exact same tasks. He put each phone at 200 nits brightness, one of them in dark mode, one of them in light mode. And then over the course of hours and hours, kept track of the battery percentage of each phone. And it actually turns out that dark mode does save quite a lot of battery, which...
a surprising amount, yeah.
A surprising amount of battery. In the months leading up to the very first OLED iPhone, of course, there was all sorts of talk about how OLED displays would save battery because they're not lighting up dark pixels at all or as much.
Mm-hmm.
But I think from that day that the phone came out until this day, I'm not sure I've read any report that actually conclusively stated that that was the case. But now here we go. It is true that you'll save a lot of battery when you have not as many pixels lit up on your iPhone with OLED display.
Right. And to quantify that amount, when the phone in light mode hit 0% and died, the phone performing the same tasks in dark mode still had 30% battery left.
That's huge.
So that is very huge, yeah. Yeah, and like you said in the early days, I think for every person who was saying that OLED was going to save us battery life, there was a person on their side saying the difference are so insignificant you're not even going to notice a difference in day-to-day usage.
Right.
But these numbers seem to conclusively prove there's actually a huge benefit to running dark mode.
So these tests were done on a 10S, and as Dreamer X2 comments, Anantech's review reported that the panels on the 11 Pros are more efficient to the ones on the 10 and the 10S. So you would actually probably see a smaller difference when one phone ran out of battery if they were both more efficient.
Right. Huh.
Yeah, I wonder why he didn't do the test on the 11 Pros. Maybe he didn't have two of them just lying around.
Yeah, just maybe not at that time. I don't know. But I can't say it's something I noticed on my 10S when I was running the beta, but I was probably hand in hand with it still being a beta and using battery a little more than normal. So
you are already a dark mode convert, are you not?
Right. Yeah. Day one.
Day one dark mode. That should be an achievement unlocked. Have you ever switched back to light mode?
No, I haven't. From the moment I was setting up the phone and chose dark mode, it's only been that.
Nice. I don't have any OLED displays at the moment, so...
Right. So do you run your phone in light mode then?
I do. The only time I run in dark mode is when I'm in a dark room and say I'm trying to get the little one to sleep and I just don't want a screen lighting up the entire room, then I'll switch over.
Oh, okay.
But I think if I had an OLED display device, this would probably push me over the edge. It's not that I hate dark mode, I like light mode a bit better. But yeah, I think 30% is a huge difference and well worth switching over for that benefit. Yeah.
I think especially if you have something like the 10S, it'd be worth considering. Mm-hmm. When you get to the 11, like I said, it has a better or more efficient display, but also the battery life going up by 5 to 6 hours, depending on the phone. You're already going to get a significant improvement in battery life, so at that point, it might not make that much of a difference to you.
And it probably also depends if you are struggling with battery life, which it doesn't sound like many people with 10Ss or 11s are really.
Right. I mean, there was definitely a handful of people that were complaining about battery life on the 10S. Probably at least when you were comparing it to like the 10R.
True, yep.
So
maybe it's for those situations where you're on holiday somewhere and you need to just push your device as far as possible, because we all know that when you're on holiday, there's like a little battery vampire that sits on your shoulder and seems to run your phone battery down at like twice the rate for some reason. Not sure why that is, right. But it's always on holiday.
I know jumping from the 10S to 11 had a very noticeable impact on me. It used to be that my 10S would sit on a charger all day while I was at work, and now I actively avoid putting my phone on the charger because I don't need it, and I don't want to damage the battery more than I have to if I don't need it.
Yep.
So
that's a wireless charger, hey?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool one. I wish I knew who... Actually, I do know who make it. It's 12 South. It's a photo frame. So I have a picture of all my kids, and I can just set my phone on the photo, and it'll start charging.
That is genius. So when it's not in use, it is just a photo.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Wow. 12 South have been making good products for a long time, haven't they?
Yeah, I really like everything they do.
I actually picked up my first my first non like $5 wireless charger during the week.
Okay. What device is that for?
Well, I mean, my wife, Yasmin, has an iPhone 10, so she can use it, and I was planning to add the Qi coil to my SE, but I don't know if I'll bother now.
Okay.
Previous experience with Qi charging has been very cheap, like sub $10 chargers, and they've been terrible mostly, like don't work through a case or incredibly slow, or the simple act of walking past it will vibrate the device off the platform. Useless stuff like that. But I was in the Apple store. What was I in the Apple store for? Oh, that's right. My wife's phone had a few problems in it. We were in the Apple store, and they had these incredible looking wireless charging mats, which were charged by USB-C, and they had like this nice fabric cover on them, and they were very hefty, like, quite a weight to them. And anyway, I've been trying to find some way of simplifying all the different chargers and cables, and I thought, well, since this charges with USB-C, well, it kind of doubles as an iPad charger as well, because I can just unplug the mat and plug it into my iPad. So that kind of reduces the number of cables lying around by one. So I went and grabbed one. It's by a company called A-Logic. I think it's just called fast charging mat or something like that.
Okay.
But it's really nice.
Huh. I don't think I've heard of them.
Yeah, not a well-known brand as far as I know.
But well enough to be in the Apple store, apparently, though.
Sorry. I kind of skipped a step there. I saw it in the Apple store, and then I later bought it at just a normal non-Apple store.
Okay.
Of course, it was like the most expensive mat that they had there, besides the ones that were like dual Qi charger and Apple Watch charger. Because for some reason, those are just ridiculous. Like, I'm talking about $200 plus for the cheapest one I could find. That was also USB-C.
Oh, really? I sent you a picture of my Nomad 3 Qi charger with an Apple stand built in as well, and I think that was $150.
Yeah, C150 American is probably over $200 Australian. And is it USB-C charging as well?
No, it's got like a barrel jack on the back of it.
Right, yeah. So I would tend to avoid those.
Right. I see the charger, though. It looks really nice.
Yeah, it is. It's looks good.
Yeah.
Anyway, way off topic. Anything else to say on the dark mode, light mode battery test? Or?
No, not really. I was really surprised by the results, because I was definitely more in the camp of the difference is so insignificant you won't notice. But
I think a lot of people
wrong at this point
had made the same conclusion.
Yeah. So very cool.
So Apple probably isn't holding an October event, and so as we record, it's either the 25th or the 26th of October, depending on your time zone. Mm-hmm. And it's Saturday, and no invites have been sent out. So previously, the latest invites were sent out was the 19th, I think, of October, maybe the 18th.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's a given that we won't be having an event in October. So the question remains, will we be having an event at all? Or will we be having, as Apple did earlier in the year, a week of press releases? I think there were 4 days in a row of press releases.
Yeah.
Culminating in the final grand press release, which was AirPower being... wait, no, that never happened. That's an alternate reality.
I mean... Everyone's caught up in this October thing. It's possible they could decide to have an event in November, although apparently they've never done it in the history of the company, at least since 2005. So, yeah. So it's probably a little too close to holiday season to be holding an event at that point. But just the number of things have been rumored. between the new MacBook Pro and the AirPods and just needing to see like final specs for this Mac Pro, and everything seemed to have pointed to there being some event, but maybe either these devices aren't coming out as early as everyone thinks, or they're not as big refreshes as we were expecting, and they do just warrant a little press release and an update on the website.
Right. That was exactly the argument that I heard on the ATP podcast during the week, is that the refresh specifically of the 16-inch MacBook Pro is actually just a minor update. It's just kind of a screen size refresh, and isn't the grand redesign with scissor keys back again and I don't know, SD card slot and all the magical things that people are hoping for. And instead it's just a screen size refresh, screen size enlargement, whatever you call it, and is just coming out via press release. The Mac Pro, it's coming out this year, so does it warrant a keynote? I don't think so. It's had its keynote.
Sure. Yeah, they could. That's the one they could definitely go without.
Yeah, right. It might just be suddenly appear on Apple's website.
What do you think about the Apple tags?
The Apple tags, I don't know. Maybe it's going the way of AirPower. It's never going to exist.
Not even announced.
Not even announced.
What a waste of an ultra wideband chip to put in these phones if they're never going to have the tags.
And what was the last thing? The AirPods Pro. Mm-hmm. That's probably had the fewest rumors of everything. So,
but also the only one we've seen physical leaks of.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Does it need a keynote?
Did the AirPods 2 actually get a keynote announcement, or did they just update them? I don't actually remember now.
That's a good question.
Probably lumped them with an iPhone.
I think it was.
I think it was the 10S keynote when they had that intro video and the girl was talking to Siri through her AirPods before the AirPods 2 came out. Everyone's like, oh man, they're going to do it. And they didn't do it.
That's right.
They didn't release them. So maybe it was mentioned later, but I know that like everyone thought that AirPods 2 was going to be announced then and maybe just weren't ready in time.
Right.
But
speaking of the 16-inch MacBook, sorry, just to go back a sec, there was not a glyph, but I don't know, what would you call it? A system icon, as it's described in 9 to 5 Mac, of a MacBook with a display that looks bigger than the current icon, and with bezels that look slightly smaller than the current icon. So widely rumored.
MacBook 16.
Okay.
Is the image name. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of gives it away. But I think in no system icon has been more intensely analyzed than this one.
I know that initially, when it was still new news, Guy Rambo went back and forth a little bit on Twitter trying to decide if this is actually a new product, because the current MacBook Pro is MacBook Pro 16,1. So it's just its model identifier. And he had said something. It might be just a refresh of the icon design to look better on smaller displays or something. But I think he eventually leaned towards this was probably a new MacBook Pro.
And one indicator of that is that it seems to have a physical escape key, because you can see a little break or a little gap between the top leftmost key on the keyboard and the rest of the row.
I mean, the three things I'd want to see if Apple was going to update a Mac, and it doesn't have to be a full redesign to achieve this, but I think the screen needs to have smaller bezels. I think they need a new keyboard mechanism, and I think they need to put Face ID in it. And I think with those three things, whether or not the chassis gets redesigned is what the MacBook Pro needs. And I'd be really disappointed if the 16-inch model doesn't have those.
Yeah, I'm with you. I certainly don't think the chassis needs a big redesign. It's already very small and very light. There are obviously complaints about airflow and how long it can run a maxed out CPU for.
Right.
But it's still a very elegant and modern design. Face ID certainly would have to come to it. I wonder if they have to make the screen any thicker for that. It is very thin at the moment. But yeah, it's certainly languishing behind iOS devices, still having Touch ID. I'd like to see the T-shaped arrow keys come back, because I find it very annoying to have those double height left and right arrows, and also the escape key. Would want to see that come back. And if I had a final wish, I'd say put an SD card slot on it, because SD card slots are not very thick. There's plenty of space, and it would serve a lot of people.
I think out of all of those things you wished for, the SD card's the least likely.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I don't see them ever backtracking on a decision like that.
And of course, keyboard reliability, actually number one.
Right. Yeah, I've kind of been giving, I mean, in my mind, I've been giving them a pass for updating the MacBook Pros earlier in the year and keeping the butterfly switch, because I've been thinking this whole time that the redesign's coming this fall. But if it doesn't come this fall, then I have to be like retroactively upset that they didn't fix it in the last refresh.
Just record a snippet of yourself being upset about this, and I'll go and tack it on to the end of every show we've done this year.
Although I haven't heard as much complaints recently about the butterfly mechanism, so maybe this last iteration's been a little bit more reliable.
Yeah, that's true. I haven't had as many complaints, and actually my in-laws at the moment are looking to buy a MacBook, and I'm worried about if I should recommend doing it now, or I mean, they're going to be getting a MacBook Air though, not a MacBook Pro, so it doesn't really matter if the 16-inch comes out or not, but I still have this worry about, will I be copying it for making this suggestion in 6 months' time when the keyboard starts to fail?
Right. Has there been any complaints about the MacBook Air's keyboard yet?
Last year there was certainly plenty of complaints, but the update this year, I've completely lost track really of like what generation MacBook or MacBook Air has which generation butterfly keyboard. Is it like 2.5, or is there a third one, or is it 3 with like the gaskets? I've completely lost track. But I believe the current MacBook Air is probably recommendable to people. Funnily enough, the two requests from the in-laws about the new MacBook Air, they want an 11-inch with USB-A ports.
Ooh, they're going to be disappointed.
Yep.
I guess you could dig up an old 11-inch MacBook Air somewhere.
No, that's what they've got at the moment, so this is to replace that.
Oh, I see. So they want to keep the same footprint and the same ports,
right?
Just a newer one.
Right.
Ugh. How do you get anything done on an 11-inch laptop?
They're very casual users, as you might imagine.
Maybe you could point them towards an iPad.
The thing is that one of the use cases is to sync like a Garmin watch to the... Actually, I haven't even checked if a Garmin watch will sync with iOS. It's probably worth looking into, you're right.
I mean, there's probably a Garmin app for that kind of stuff.
Surely. Okay. You've given me something
a nice
to do.
Keyboard.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's. I would say that anyone that wants an 11-inch laptop really is better served by an iPad.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But, as a matter of fact, like my mom, her primary computer is an iPad Mini.
Primary computer is an iPad Mini. Wow.
Right, her primary personal computer. She has a work computer when she does work stuff. But if she's at home doing anything else, like even writing emails or anything, she has this iPad Mini with a little keyboard case. I'm like, Mom, let me get you like at least a full size iPad so you have a regular keyboard. She says, no, I don't want it any bigger. This is the perfect size. So,
old people and their desires.
Yeah, I can say old. She turns 50 in like a week.
Cool. Happy birthday to your mum.
I think she's aware I have a podcast, but she's never listened to any episodes.
Oh, yeah. I'd be highly surprised if my parents had ever listened to an episode.
So I can't even get my girlfriend to listen before she'll eyes will gloss over within a few minutes of us starting to talk.
Yeah, I occasionally make Yasmin listen to like anything that I think is particularly funny.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. I don't think I can convince her to listen any more than that.
Yeah.
Since we last spoke, Google has announced a little update to the Pixel line of phones, namely the Pixel 4. Did you follow along with that?
Yeah, I definitely at least read up on all the post-event articles and saw all the videos.
So my biggest takeaway is that each tentpole feature is majorly flawed in one way or another. The first one being their version of Face ID. Apparently it doesn't really mind if you are alive or dead to unlock the phone.
Right.
The second one being the 90 hertz refresh rate of the screen. Well, apparently it only works if the screen's above 75% brightness. I'm not sure if my phone's often above 75% brightness, except in broad daylight.
Right.
And number 3 is the radar technology, which from my understanding is all but useless.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it might... it can detect when your hand is getting close to the phone, so it can warm up the Face ID, whatever they call it, sensor a bit quicker. But, I mean, apart from that, it's got a few gestures where you can skip tracks waving your hand over the phone, but that's, like a 75% success rate. I don't understand. I mean, you can hardly complain about chips, like useless chips being in phones when you've got like this ultra wideband chip in the iPhone doing basically nothing as well. But it seems like a lot of technology for not a lot of functionality. It's kind of what I'm trying to say.
And even, I mean, there's a lot of damning stuff about this phone. The battery life is apparently abysmal, at least on the regular sized Pixel.
Yeah, not improved over the 3, which already had sort of bad battery life.
Right. And then also worsened by the 90 hertz display. The fact that Google's the only major manufacturer this year not to include an ultra-wide camera on their phone. The fact that they can't record 4K 60. You're stuck at 4K 30 only, can't even do like 24.
And the excuse that it just uses up too much storage. Let people make that judgment themselves.
Which they've gotten rid of free full resolution photo storage for Pixel users this year. I don't know. There's just so many things that were like hurting the phone this year.
Yeah, not Google's shining hour.
Right. And the fact that they just, I mean, it's their justification is this is for the radar technology, but the fact that they have this massive forehead on their phone now compared to every other phone manufacturer having edge-to-edge or a cutout or a notch. I mean, Google really couldn't pull off the notch either. They had the biggest notch of anyone, but so they just decided to ditch it and put a big forehead back on. So many weird choices with this phone.
Yeah, the most puzzling is the radar, but time may show that the radar tech is actually useful for some things, but it just smacks of like that functionality that Samsung added to maybe the S3, maybe the S4, where it would kind of track your eyes and scroll the screen based on where you're looking.
Yeah.
Like, just tech that exists but isn't that well implemented, and really the use case is there are so many cases where this wouldn't be useful and you'd want to have it turned off. And
right.
What am I trying to say? Just not that useful tech. Like, a lot of work has gone into not that useful tech.
Yeah, it's a whole extra chip and a bigger forehead and all that for a gimmick that doesn't do very much.
A gimmick. That's exactly what I was trying to say. It's a gimmick. Thank you.
So, yeah, they've worked on building this new radar technology to do what other phone manufacturers have been doing with the camera years ago, and decided it wasn't even worth continuing to support today. So, very. I mean, when Google announced Stadia a few years ago, which is their radar sensing project, they showed a lot of cool potential that maybe we're still building up towards, like individual finger tracking and stuff like that. But they're nowhere near that point right now.
And that could be a silver lining because, as we know, Google is not afraid to like bring new features onto old Pixels. Kind of the reverse from Apple, who kind of tries to almost limit what older phones can do, even if they have the capability of doing this new feature, they kind of won't bring it to it.
Right.
So maybe in 2020 or 2021, when the radar can detect the tiny violin, well, maybe the Pixel 4 then gets that update too.
The flip side of that is Google's also not afraid to announce a new product and then promptly abandon it.
Right.
So they could give up on radar and no one will ever see an improvement.
They announced a few other things at the event. Nothing that really made headlines for me. What about you?
No, not really. I was surprised to hear that we're still like 4 or 5 months away from Pixel Bud, the updated Pixel Buds coming out. Mm-hmm. It seems like that should have been something to launch, especially since the existing Pixel Buds have been out for 2 years now, I think. So they're desperately in need of an update. Their new Chrome OS laptop, the Pixelbook Go, it's not $1,000 like their current Pixelbook is, so that's nice. But it's still like way more expensive than any other Chrome OS laptop, and is under spec for other Chrome OS laptops in that price range. That's another thing. With everything said and done, the Pixel 4 costs more than the iPhone 11 for once.
Does it really? Oh, and I missed that completely.
Yeah. So, because the Pixel 4 is starts at $799, so $100 more than the iPhone 11.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, there was nothing that really blew me away at that Pixel event.
So you're not abandoning iOS for Android at any time in the near future?
Not for a Pixel.
Not for a Pixel. Whoa.
Whoa. I wouldn't do it for anything, unfortunately. There was a time 5 or 6 years ago that I just got whatever the newest flagship was because I liked because it used to be there was a difference between all the flagships. It wasn't just the operating system.
Right.
And I feel like we're maybe starting to get back into the precipice of that where it's like, oh man, folding phones are really tempting.
Yeah, but apart now from that, everything else is basically the same.
Right. But now I'm more locked into iOS than ever. Between if I were to switch to an Android phone, I'd lose syncing with my Mac and my iPad, and I wouldn't be able to use my credit card anymore, and I wouldn't be able to use my family sharing between my device and the kids and my girlfriend, and it's just not possible for me to leave iOS anymore like it was 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's going to be really tricky. Every year that goes past, something else comes up that locks us in. But I tell you what, iOS 13 has really made me think about it.
Oh yeah?
Not really, but more than anything else ever has. iOS 13 has made me think about switching, but in reality, I don't think there's any way I could do it
right
in the current climate.
I just hope that Apple hurries up with their own folding device because I really want to play with one.
You could just get doesn't the 3DS fold? It's got 2 screens, top and bottom.
The screen doesn't fold.
The device folds, though, and it has 2 screens.
Yeah. The problem with the Galaxy Fold, and I think
is that it breaks after 5 seconds.
Right. That is the problem, and that's the symptoms of that problem is that retailers like Best Buy or even carriers don't have Galaxy Fold outs on display like every other phone for you to try out and use because they'll immediately get broken. So I can't even go into a store and play with it and go, all right, now I've had my fill and I don't feel this urge to get one. So I can't satiate myself that way. I would have to buy one.
Yeah, quite an investment too at this point.
Yeah. So that's definitely not something that I'm seriously considering.
I'm James VDM on Reddit and Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.